Well, then mom and dad come home from the doctor one day and say, okay, girls, we've got some exciting news. The new baby is going to be a brother.
A brother.
And so they were so disappointed. So they start crying and sobbing.
Oh my goodness.
Because in their head, they had all of these things that were going to happen. And so the younger one, who was 6, said, you know what? We should just name him
Disappointment. Welcome to TYRO TV. I'm Ron Tijerina.
And I'm Cathy Tijerina.
And today we want to talk with you about how to deal with disappointments.
Because life is full of disappointments. If you try, I guarantee you at some point you are going to be disappointed.
And you are going to disappoint others.
For sure. And so we have to learn how to deal with disappointment so it doesn't stop us from trying. It doesn't stop us from living or creating plans and dreams. Nothing is ever going to go completely according to plan. There are going to be anomalies, there are going to be glitches, there are going to be challenges, things you didn't plan to happen, and then disappointment is going to set in.
But what did we do with that disappointment? What do we do in that midst of that experience? Because rejection, right, is another form of disappointment. When you're expecting something one way, but something else happens, you may feel not only disappointed, but rejected. And so now you got two things being piled upon you, but you don't know how to deal with that reality. So what do? We might go and put ourselves in a corner mentally, right? We don't want to expose ourselves anymore. We don't want to be transparent with anybody because why? Disappointment hurts.
And disappointment is the thing that fills the gap between expectation and reality. So you expect something to go one way, and in reality, something else happens. And so that leaves all this room for disappointment. And so today we're going to talk about exactly what is disappointment. And then why? Why is it important to know how to deal with it and literally how to overcome and come back after disappointments in order to become successful, reach your dreams, and achieve greatness.
So what we want you to do is during this episode is to think about a time that you were disappointed, or maybe even a time that you created that experience in somebody else's life. You caused them to be disappointed in you. And what do you think happened to them? What was happening to you in the midst of your own experience of disappointment? Think about that. How did you respond? How did you react? And how did you go from one place to the other? Are you still feeling disappointed in something? Is something still lingering in your background? You know what? This was supposed to happen a year ago, but I'm still waiting for it to happen, right? You ever live in that state? Well, she promised me she was going to send me a food box a year ago. I'm still waiting.
Still holding on.
Right?
Maybe it'll happen.
You know?
Yeah.
But we learn to grow from it. Even times with disappointment sets in, we've got to come to a place of where, you know what? We're not going to let it hold us back. We're not going to let it hold us down. Because disappointment in its fullness of where you don't understand what it's supposed to do for you will cause you to shrivel up and hide. It'll cause you to not want to be live in that world of expectations anymore for fear of being what? Hurt and disappointed.
So we're going to talk to you about why it's important and what it really is. It's not the thing that's going to cause you to shrivel up if you don't let it. So when we come back, we'll share more.
Dear son, it's been hard these last few years, watching you grow up without me in the picture. Never taking the time to find out how you were or what was going on in your life. You're just a boy, I thought. You don't need me. I didn't need my dad. He was never around, I told myself. But I was wrong, son. I'm supposed to be a grown man. I was selfish. I was stupid. I was thinking of me, not you. If I could go back, son, and change things, I would. It's taken me all this time being selfish to finally grow up and realize I need to be a responsible man. That's what I finally learned, not from prison, but the TYRO program. It's all about becoming a better, stronger man. Wish I would have gotten it sooner. Everything looks different to me now. I'm a changed person. I know I need to be there for you now. It's not about me anymore. It's not about being cool. It's not about who I run with. It's about mom. It's about you. It's about being a better man, learning something new in my life. It's about being a TYRO, a man worth following. I'm your dad. You're my son, and I love you. I am a TYRO. I'm a TYRO. Dad.
If you think you have what it takes to be a TYRO or just want to know more, contact your local Ridge Project facilitator or your caseworker.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. Today we're talking about learning to live, learning to cope with disappointment.
We have to learn to deal with disappointment. And it really is, it's a human condition because we all are going to experience disappointment. From the time that we experience the world around us, infants are disappointed if mom and dad don't show up the first time that they cry. And toddlers are disappointed if they don't get what they want when they want it. And as we go through life, those disappointments get larger and larger if we don't learn developmentally how to manage through disappointment.
No one is exempt from experiencing disappointment. Every one of us is going to have that experience one way or another. It's inevitable, but it's how we handle it is what sets us apart from children to healthy adults, right? Because children don't handle disappointment really well. In fact, I don't know when's the last time each and every one of you may have thrown a temper tantrum because you didn't get your way.
Which
right?
means you were disappointed because you didn't get what you wanted.
And so we're looking at that, what is disappointment? Why is it so important to be able to have self-control, self-determination? So when it does come, you know how to respond to it in a healthy way. Because people have become very violent, very dysfunctional when they don't get their way.
I remember the first time of really feeling extraordinary disappointment when I was a little girl and I woke up Christmas morning. We would go running downstairs and my Santa would always put like chairs with every person's gift. And so it always started with my older sister, then me, my younger sister, and then my two brothers, because that was in order of our age. And so when I came down, I thought, Santa mixed up the chairs because the doll that I wanted so desperately was on the chair that actually belonged to my sister, my younger sister. So I go running over there and my mom stops me and says, Cathy, that's not your chair. Those aren't your gifts. This is your gift. And I looked at my gifts and I looked at my sister's gift and I started sobbing. I was crying so hard because I was so disappointed. I didn't get the doll I wanted. So I'm like, I'm not opening any of my gifts. That doll I don't even want. I don't even like that. That's the doll I wanted. That's what I asked for. And I went running into the kitchen. And I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And pretty soon my dad came in. And he sat down and he said, Cathy, let's talk. And so I said, all right. And so of course I'm crying. And okay, Daddy. And he says, so you asked for that other doll. And maybe Santa decided that actually it was better for you to have the doll that he gave you. Maybe there was a reason. Maybe there's a lesson in this. That sometimes the things that we think we want aren't really the things that are best for us. And it's okay to learn to celebrate when somebody else gets it. Even though I know you feel disappointed. When you feel disappointed and you act destructively, then what happens is that actually causes more pain inside of you and for everybody around you. Because now your sister can't enjoy her present, you can't enjoy your present, and so nobody can really enjoy Christmas because your disappointment is filling the room.
I want to add to that, fellas and ladies, when you guys come home from prison, right, you have expectations. You're counting on a lot of people, a lot of situations, a lot of things that fall into place for when you arrive home.
Yeah.
But be ready for disappointment. See it in your mind. We're going to talk later in the how to, some techniques on how to deal with disappointments when they come your way. So the expectations that are laid out for you when you come home, understand that they're not all going to be met. If you come into the race knowing that, if you come back into the streets knowing that, guess what? You're not going to take it personal. Because that's why this is so important to have under your belt, understanding the power of who you are. Because you understand, there are disappointments in life, but that doesn't mean it's going to infect me. Right? And that's where when we take things personal, this poison, we start to let it build up within us. And then another disappointment comes. We haven't even dealt with the last time we were disappointed because why? We took that personal. Now everybody's out to get us. I'm never going to get ahead because nobody wants to help me. And we begin to act like the child, right, that we were prior to coming into adulthood.
Right, like the child that ran downstairs on Christmas morning and didn't get what she wanted. And I will never forget that lesson. And so now as we apply that, because we don't want to infect the culture around us. Your disappointment will fill the room, fill your attitude, fill your mind, and stop you from trying, stop you from achieving your goals, stop you from growing, stop you from connecting and building healthy, thriving, satisfying relationships because you were so disappointed on how the last one went. You have to learn the skills and the tools to deal with disappointment in a healthy way. Of course, disappointment hurts. There's grief attached to that. There's the loss that's attached to that, the loss of the idea of what life might be like or what you might have. And it's okay because you've got to deal with that. But you have to move beyond it. You have to learn to deal with what life is going to throw at you, which is oftentimes going to be disappointing.
You know, I remember the first time I went to the parole board and they gave me 5 more years. Mm-hmm. Now, was that disappointing? Absolutely.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Was it devastating? Absolutely. Right? I'm thinking about, not only was I heartbroken, I was devastated. Cathy was, our sons were, our family was. There were so many people experiencing at the same time at different levels of disappointment.
Which was extraordinarily painful. But thankfully, we knew how to deal with that disappointment in a way that brought our family together. And so we're going to share with you in the next segment why it's so important to deal with your disappointment. So stay tuned. We'll see you soon.
Welcome to TYRO. I'm Ron Tijerina.
And I'm Cathy Tijerina. And Ron and I are the co-creators of TYRO.
TYRO is a Latin word which means apprentice, novice, someone learning something new, a warrior.
Your job isn't to extract value from your friends, your family, or your community. Your job is to create value in every situation that you find yourself in, to help others become more successful. So what I want you to do is I want you to list 3 things that you add to your friendships, to your family, and to your community.
Listen, you are fighting every day for something, and maybe you don't even know what you're fighting for, but when TYRO comes into your life, it's there not only to empower you, but to give you a clear vision and a clear direction of what you're fighting for.
So really what TYRO means is to fight for your legacy, to become a leader in your home, your community, and your workplace.
Hello guys, I'm Jermaine Hall, lead coach of the TYRO Fit Stimulus Program.
And I'm Ron and Cathy Tijerina, the Senior Director of TYRO Support Services. We've partnered together to bring you such an amazing workout program that's going to take you to the next level.
Because there is a measure of joy and a measure of pain in everybody's life. So when we think about shock and the impact of shock, typically, people don't find themselves stuck in shock. Most of the time, people can navigate out of that.
So here's what we want you to do. We want you to think of a time that you experienced shock in your life, and we want you to write it down. Welcome back to TYRO TV. Today we're talking about learning how to live with and deal with disappointment.
Because it's a human condition. We all experience disappointment. We all have expectations, then the thing happens, reality hits in, and sometimes we're disappointed. And so how do we deal with that? How do we navigate through that? And why is it even important to be able to do that?
You know, when I think about the why of disappointment, I think about taking risk. Right? Life is about taking risk. We put all our chips in something. Guess what? It didn't go our way. So we're going to be disappointed. But I know going in, I'm taking a risk that I may not get the ROI that I'm looking for, the return of investment that I'm looking for. So therefore, I'm disappointed. But can I live with that level of disappointment? When I'm taking a risk, I already know what's at stake. So yeah, I'm disappointed, but I already said I can live with that. Right?
I am prepared to risk it because the risk of the disappointment, the risk of the reward, I should say, is greater than the risk of disappointment.
Yes.
And so when you're building a healthy relationship, the risk of reward is so much greater than the risk of disappointment. along the way, there's going to be disappointments in the day-to-day living. I'm disappointed if maybe Ron's disappointed if I make the food he doesn't like. Or maybe I'm disappointed if I come home and I trip over his shoes. And so there's those momentary disappointments, or we call them like annoyances, right? But the greater picture, in the big picture, the focus is on the reward that we're getting. This extraordinary connection, this extraordinary experience of living together and doing life together and dreaming together is worth the small minutia of the disappointments that come along with learning to live with somebody that's not perfect.
I remember our daughter, she was playing volleyball. She wanted so bad to be a volleyball player, but she wasn't very good at the beginning of her seasons, the beginning of her journey of learning how to play volleyball. So one year she decided to get the courage and ask the coach, what can I do to become a better volleyball player so I can play? I don't want to sit on the bench anymore. But now this particular coach told her, you're not going to ever play volleyball. Sorry. You're just not going to be that person. You're not that good, is what she was telling her. Our daughter came home. This is a different. She came home. Yes, she was disappointed, but she came home with "I'll show her" type attitude.
Yeah. She was so disappointed. But she says, I can't believe it. She says, she basically told me, no matter what you do, we probably aren't going to have a place for you on the team because our team is already full of people that are already doing well. And so you're not going to usurp one of them. And so she said, I was so disappointed because I was really hoping to have clear direction. She says, but actually it ignited something inside of me that says, you know what? I'm going to dig deep and I'm going to figure out, okay, she's saying it won't be easy. And I'm going to hear that. It won't be easy, but you know what? I'm up for the challenge. So she flipped that disappointment into motivation to be able to put forth the work and effort for her to achieve her dreams.
Not only motivation, but the discipline it would take for her to become a starter, libero, on the same team.
Yep.
Right? So by her junior year, she's the star, libero, first starter on that team. Senior year, same thing. And then she gets signed by a college to play volleyball.
And if you had rewound, if she would have let disappointment overtake her, she never would have experienced the fun of the teamwork, the bonding, the hard work, the value and the sense of accomplishment of actually achieving her dream was so worth the risk of additional disappointment. And that's why once we start to overcome disappointment, we navigate through it, we recognize that, you know what, this wasn't my first choice. Honestly, the crazy thing is, and you would look at us and think, wow, that's amazing. This was not Ron and I's first choice of the life that we were going to build together. So when we got together and we got married, we had an idea of what our life was going to look like, how we were going to navigate, when we were going to buy a house, how many kids we were going to have, what types of jobs we were going to have. And then Ron went to prison and disappointment set in. And we had the opportunity at that time to just let bitterness, anger, grief, loss settle on us and us say, you know what? It's our lot in life. This is all we're going to ever have. But instead we said, you know what? This is a huge disappointment because this is not what we had intended. But we have an opportunity here to do something different.
How do we make the best of a disappointing situation? And that takes a conscious effort where we had to verbally talk to each other. Okay, the dream that we had prior to prison, not a dream at all. It was a nightmare. Right? It was a nightmare.
Mine wasn't a nightmare.
Oh my
you
gosh.
just enjoying me.
But we had to be real with ourselves. And in the disappointment, the tears came, the regret, right? But we made a decision. We're not going to live a life of lamenting in this state of regret.
Right.
We're going to take this experience. We're going to take this disappointment and we're going to show the world. But first we got to show ourselves we can come out of this place of disappointment because grief, bitterness, all these type of negative attributes were trying to cling itself to us to where we would walk and live in a state of depression.
Or throw in the towel and say, forget it. That dream we had of doing life together, that spark of the possibility, you know what? I'm so disappointed that there's no chance that we could possibly resurrect that. But instead, we're like, you know what? Even in this disappointment, we see this light, this flicker of light that's a possibility of what could be. And when we use disappointment in that way, the big why is it important to be able to navigate through disappointment? Because on the other side of that disappointment is an incredible opportunity to thrive and to see something that you never imagined you would see.
So when we come back, we're going to give you some tips and tools on how to embrace the disappointments and don't let it overtake you. Welcome back to TYRO TV. Today we're talking about how to deal with disappointment and how to overcome it.
Because as we said before, we're all going to experience it. So we have to be prepared for when we are disappointed. What do we do next? How do we manage it? And so the first step in being prepared is to, one, recognize what it is you've done in the past. So the first thing we want you to do is we want you to take down a piece of paper and a pen, and we want you to write down what was the most recent disappointment you had, what happened, and how did you deal with it?
This is really important to examine your processes on how you deal with disappointment. Because if you don't know what you do, you're not conscious of it, you will continually repeat the same negative cycles of how you handled it in the past. Now, maybe you didn't even do anything about it, you just shrugged it off, but that's even dealing with it, right? Or not dealing with it. So we want you to be alert, we want you to be focused, we want you to be aware of what you are doing in the midst of your disappointment.
Because typical negative behaviors are either shut down or act out. A healthy behavior is to assess the situation. And so that's step number 2. We want you to look back on the past and say, okay, in this disappointment, this is what happened. This is how I reacted, and it may have been in a negative way. I either shut down, walked away, isolated myself, or I reacted in a negative way. And now let's reassess it. What could you have done differently that would have been healthy? How could you have responded instead of reacted in the midst of that disappointment?
Now, sometimes in the beginning, when you're looking at your disappointment, maybe you hurt somebody, maybe you were in spite mode, maybe you were talking bad about somebody because you were disappointed and you don't want to do that anymore. So now you're going to reassess, what can I do different? What can I do to help empower me so that, you know what, I don't become the poison, I am the antidote.
So I've got a really great example of this from my 6-year-old granddaughter. So my daughter-in-law was expecting a baby, and so they had 2 girls and 1 boy already. So the 2 older girls were talking about the excitement of having a new baby sister. They were just convinced it was a sister. They were so excited. They were planning. They had all these expectations. Well, then mom and dad come home from the doctor one day and say, okay, girls, we've got some exciting news. The new baby is going to be a brother.
A brother.
And so they were so disappointed. So they start crying and sobbing.
Oh my goodness.
Because in their head, they had all of these things that were going to happen. And so the younger one, who was 6, said, you know what? We should just name him
Disappointment.
And so for months, as this baby is growing and getting prepared to come into the world, the girls are just saying, gosh, I wish it was a sister. I wish it was a sister. Well, I saw the girls, and so now the baby's here. He's a boy, of course. The sisters love him. He's about 2 months old now. And my granddaughter said to me, Grandma, we spent the weekend with her, and she says, Grandma, you know what? I am so sorry that I called my brother Disappointment. And she said, I just didn't know. I didn't understand how exciting and lovable and cute he was going to be. I got stuck in my head with something that I wanted. And she says, I really wish I could go back and take that back because I never want him to know I called him Disappointment. And I thought, you know what? Out of a 6-year-old, right, that she looked at what she had done, she reassessed it and said, you know, I just didn't know. I didn't know at the time that I had something better coming than what I imagined. And so she at 6, reassessed, I wish I would have. So then, number 3, what you're going to ask you to do now is reset.
Now, what does that mean, reset? That means you got to go back and look at something that brings you joy, right? We're talking something legal, right? We're talking something that you can do. Like
ethical.
Maybe, right, that you can work out. Maybe you've experienced a disappointment and part of your process, okay, what can I do to help me alleviate this type of pain? Well, maybe it's working out. Maybe it's going for a walk. Maybe it's building something. Maybe it's something simple as washing the dishes. Something that will take your mind off it so you can be productive. Because one of the cures to disappointment is build something, be about something, or bring healing to somebody else. A lot of times when you're not feeling so good about something about you, find somebody worse off in that situation or any other situation and bring a smile to their face and watch what happens to you.
And I know many people say, oh, I hear that all the time. That's so cliche. You know, that doesn't really work. Yes, it does.
It does work.
If you're telling me it doesn't work, it means you've never tried it. When you are in the midst of your own disappointment and you find somebody else to help, you find a way to contribute to life around you, it inspires you to keep trying it. It reminds you that life is not all about that one disappointment, There's so many other things in life to be joyful and excited about. And so just like my little granddaughter who's 6, who wanted a sister, got a brother, was so disappointed until she met him. And then she was filled with joy that this was better than she ever anticipated or imagined a sister being. The brother was exactly what she needed and wanted. If we can manage through the disappointment of the moment, I promise you that on the other side, as we learn and grow, we're going to experience things that we never imagined possible. And we're going to be glad we didn't just stop with that disappointment.
So as you put together the process of what we just laid out for you, recall, reassess, reset, practice these things over and over and over again, because disappointment never is going to stop, right? It ain't going to end.
Right.
But you can become better in the midst of it. When we come back, we're going to wrap all this up. See you there.
Finding your purpose should not be rocket science. Why is it in life when we get excited about something, when something comes our way and we know that this is our purpose, we know this is the reason why we were put here on earth, we allow life and the circumstances thereof to snatch our joy, to steal our dreams? Why is it that we allow those things to just suffocate our growth?
Because we make it so complicated. You need a program that shows you the process, that lays it out in front of you so that you know exactly when you're on track to unleash your fullest potential.
Because the word is, if you're faithful in the little things, you will be faithful in the big things.
In this program, we're going to teach you the process to actually reach your dreams. Some of you don't even know what your dreams are, so we're going to help you unlock that and unleash that. And then we're going to give you the process to step through all of the challenges, overcome every single obstacle in order to reach and achieve those dreams.
Part of the process of you becoming a new person for you is understanding what it means to be a TYRO, right? You're going to start reciting a pledge that is going to become your new mantra for your life, called the TYRO Pledge. And I promise you, this would change the way you think about you.
We're going to teach you the difference between a value statement and an observation. We're going to give you the formula on how to be successful in investing your time and energy. We're going to walk you through the process of developing a mission statement.
This is not going to be easy. This is not a cakewalk. But if you're ready to live up to your greatest potential, to take on every challenge that's in front of you and conquer them, then you're ready to be a TYRO.
You must know you are not on this path alone. As you go through this course, you're going to be going through this course with people all across the world. There are TYROs worldwide that are waiting to welcome you into this community, to become a person worth following and join the network that is transforming their lives and their communities.
The greatest honor of completing TYRO is to earn the TYRO pen. Many people from across the world, from all walks of life, have earned the TYRO pen by completing the 12 workshops that are in this program. But just because you signed up, and maybe you showed up for 1 or 2 of them, doesn't give you the right to earn the TYRO pin. You must complete this entire program to be pinned a TYRO.
This pinning is an outward symbol of something that's happened on the inside. Because throughout the TYRO process, you are going to be awakened to your purpose and your dreams. Your heartbeat begins to resurrect and beat again for the passion of being a leader in your home, your community, and your workplace.
If your dreams don't scare you, then you are not dreaming big enough. Sign up for this program if you're ready to be pushed to your greatest potential. Sign up for this program if you're ready to live the next level of life. You have what it takes. Everything that you need is right inside you. We're here to help you pull it out, your greatest potential. Quit running from yourself. Become the man or the woman that you were called to be here today, right now.
Welcome back to TYRO TV. We do hope that you've been enjoying this segment of how to deal with disappointment. Because I know being disappointed sometimes, maybe I didn't handle it right. Maybe I didn't say the right thing. But with being aware of when I messed up, when I didn't do it right, I'm able to correct my mistakes and bring healing to whatever it is I caused, right?
And actually reset ourselves for growth. Because if we just let disappointment overtake us, the pain, the loss, the embarrassment, whatever it is, then we get a fixed mindset that says, you know what, why even try? And then your potential becomes a disappointment. Don't let your potential go unrealized. Face those disappointments. Recognize the fact that you are disappointed. You feel sad. You feel that loss and grief. Let yourself experience it, but then come on the other side of it and make a plan and say, you know what? I know that was a disappointment. What did I learn from it? Because if I learned something from it, it wasn't a waste.
You know, when I think about the lives that people live and what we get to witness and what we get to do, disappointment isn't meant to kill you, meant to harm you. It's meant to make you better. You know, and a lot of times we look at disappointment and we allow it to bog us down. We allow it to put the crutches on. We allow it to lock us up. And that's not what disappointment's meant to do. It's meant to teach us something. It's meant to help us become empowered, because there's pain and suffering in everybody's life, and everybody is going to experience disappointment. So that says something in and of itself. If everybody in the world is going to experience disappointment, then how do I deal with it? How do I become better so that I can help the next person deal with it as they experience disappointment?
Yeah, I love interacting with people. Like our team here at the Ridge Project is phenomenal. And this is the response when they put a lot of effort into something and it doesn't go their way. They don't quit. They don't throw things. They don't say, you know, this is awful. I didn't even want to do this. What they say is, that's so disappointing. All right, well, let's take a day, and tomorrow let's come back and let's talk about what we learned from it, what worked, and why the parts that we thought would work didn't. And I love that. That is such an attitude of learning and growing, because if we don't learn from it, then it was a waste. In every disappointment, there is something that we can learn, and there is something positive, even though, let's say 90% of it didn't go our way. What is that 10% that we can take forward and then create something new?
So with the opportunities that are presented before you on how to respond to disappointment, we want to encourage you, stay focused, stay alert, stay aware of your situation, because disappointment is coming, not if, but when. But you can respond in such a healthy way that others will glean and learn from your response, from the way you handle disappointment.
So that you can build strong, thriving, healthy relationships and become a leader in your home, your community, and your workplace.
So thank you for allowing us to be part of your journey. Until next time, always remember that we are rooting for you.